That's a big one right there. That is a big one. Oh my goodness. Woo! The square bill crankbait is the ultimate power fishing tactic. A lot of casts, bouncing the bait off the cover, off the bottom, and yeah, every now and then you catch that 4 to 5 pounder. It's just incredibly fun. And the other thing about the square bill that's really cool is you can typically pattern fish pretty quickly with the square bill, simply because you're making so many presentations. So I want to do a crash course on how to pattern fish with the square bill. Incredibly fun. Oh my goodness. Woo! So there's really two aspects to the shoreline that you need to be paying attention to, and that's the angle of the bank, and that's the bottom composition. So let's talk about each one of those. The slope of the bank is really important, and that comes into play kind of seasonally. And in the winter months, the pre-spawn months, those steeper banks are definitely going to be key. And it might have a channel swing bank coming up next to it. It may be a bank that's just 45, 60 degree type of slope, but those steeper banks in the colder months are key. And particularly in the pre-spawn months, those steeper points just outside of the spawning flats, those things are money. Now, as the summer months roll around, you get into late spring and summer, even into the fall, it seems like those flatter banks start to become more of a factor. And this isn't a hard and fast rule. Always and never are terms that you just don't want to use in fishing, but it's, in general, that's going to be the case. Those flatter banks get better as the warmer months come along. Now, the other thing I mentioned is the bottom composition, and that just simply means, is it sand, gravel, softball size rock, is it more chunk rock, or even red clay banks? Any of those can be factors, but you just want to pay attention about the type of bank and the composition that you're catching them from, because a lot of times those fish will pattern according to that bottom composition. And of course, it's really a well-established fact that any type of transition, gravel that leads to chunk rock, those are really key areas as well. Now, there's one wild card in all of this, and that's wind. And it seems like wind can just position fish on otherwise kind of, normal looking type of points and shorelines. But wind is going to stir up a lot of sediment. And I used to think or read that wind washed bait fish up onto the shore. I don't think that's the case at all. I think those bait fish just move up there to feed on the sediment. There's crawfish up there, and obviously all of that's going to attract bass. So anytime you have a windy point, that's just something that you want to focus on whenever you're throwing a square bill. Now, regarding the specific square bill, I don't carry one of every make and model out there. It's just too complicated. Really, I keep it down to about 3 brands and manufacturers, and I'm not here to say one catches more fish than the other one, but there are 2 attributes that I look for, and that's castability in the wind and deflection. And one that's sneaky good is the Bill Lewis SB57. And this is a neat bait. It has a circuit board lip that's really thin, but it's also a really wide circuit board lip. So it gets to its depth quickly, but that wide lip also deflects really well. And for a 3/8 ounce bait, it casts really well into the wind. All right, I love talking tackle. Let's talk about the tackle setup for square billing. And I like a 7-foot rod, and I like those deep flex rods. And those deeper flex rods just allow the bass to take the bait deeper in their mouth, and they're just, your landing percentages go way up. Okay, let's talk line for the square bill, and for me it's exclusive fluorocarbon. I feel like the invisibility and even the sink rate with fluorocarbon makes it the clear choice for throwing a square bill. And for me, I'm going to go fairly heavy. I like 15, 17, maybe even 20-pound fluorocarbon, and I really like the qualities of Seaguar Tatsu. And that Tatsu is the best of the best. It's a dual structure line. It has excellent abrasion resistance. He's in the motor. Oh, thank you, Seaguar. But it also has very low memory, and that's not always the case with those higher test weight fluorocarbons. But Tatsu is just a pleasure to fish with, and I can cast that bait a long way with that softer line. Hey, so the takeaway with the square bill is just be observant on the slope of the bank and on the cover top whenever you get a bite, because usually that's repeatable, and you can replicate that in other parts of the lake, and that's when you put a really good pattern together. Woo! Wow! Wow. Wow. Yes, sir.